We're back to the Neil Haley Show, and my guest today is J. Len Sciuto, best-selling author, Hades Crypt, and much, much more. How are you, Len? And we're going to you're going to give us a preview for your fans and listeners out there of the book, the next book you're writing. Tell us about it.
Okay, first of all, good morning. I hope everyone out there is warm because it's kind of cool here. It was 33 when we got up this morning. There's been a couple of days where it's been below that, but it's Florida, but at least there's no snow I have to shovel. Second book that I wrote was called The Devil's Delegation, and that's a terrorism, counterterrorism book. And a quick synopsis of that is a young man becomes an orphan during Shield and Storm and blames the United States for the loss of his parents. And now a grown man, he becomes an experienced terrorist. He develops a plan of retribution. And he gets in a Greek oil tanker by torturing the owner of that tanker and then stealing a nuclear device from the Russian submarine graveyard in the Bering Sea, putting it in the tanker, covering it with crude oil, making it inaccessible, and sails to the United States in a hurricane to prevent detection. And his intention is to detonate that bomb inside the United States in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's a quick synopsis of that book. And I'm currently working on the sequel to that book, and that book the title has been changed. Now it's called Desperate Countermeasures. And a quick synopsis of that right away is 14 government agencies get together, representatives from those agencies, I guess I should say, and develop a revision and a different type of plan called the National Nuclear Contingency Plan. So this morning I thought that maybe it'd be kind of cool to give you guys a little taste of what the opening of the book is about.
I think so. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Twilight was turning dawn as I intently stared at the weathered face in the bathroom mirror. Looking at that image made me feel old. When the boy and the man go that used to be in the mirror, where did the boy and the man go that used to be in the mirror? My glasses with their thick lenses were heavy in their metal frame. I continually wrinkled my nose to keep them in place so I could clearly see, although the world seemed to look better as a blur. The early morning image of my face displayed mostly uncombed white hair with some barren patches of scalp. The beard matched the whiteness of my hair. The deep brown eyes were no longer the smiling eyes of my youth. There were deep indentations etched in my cheeks from past happy, carefree, and younger days. They were now part of a tired and worn facial image. I took a deep breath and let it out. With a melancholy mood coming on, a thought from out of nowhere popped into my mind. How much longer do I have? The light was at the end of life's tunnel was continually getting brighter, telling me that the tunnel was ever diminishing in length. I deliberately pushed that thought to the back of my mind. Minutes later, the man's face in the mirror was again looking neat and clean. I said a prayer for my recently deceased wife as I headed to the kitchen. As I was making a cup of coffee and spreading cream cheese on a warm bagel, my cell phone rung. I picked it up and said hello. The voice that sounded like a man with gravel in his throat asked, "May I please speak to Joel Scott?" I answered, "Yes, this is Joel. Who is this?" "My name is Steve Blankenship, and I'm a DIA, that's Defense Intelligence Agency, agent. I worked with your father-in-law, Rob Martone, and more recently with you. Do you remember me? I have important information for you." I answered, "Steve, of course I do. We worked together on the National Nuclear Contingency Plan about a year ago. How are you? What are you doing? How's your family? What is that yelling in the background?" He replied, "Never mind that. I don't have time to be cordial. I'm taking a chance talking to you on this phone. It doesn't have a secure line. Just listen and then take the appropriate action. Recently, a terrorist group illegally crossed our southern border. They are attempting to get the classified and sensitive information that is contained inside that plan. They kidnapped me, drugged me, and waterboarded me. I was forced to give them the names of all the other authors who worked on the plan. The plan information I gave them was totally false, but the names I gave them are true. I had no choice of doing that, as they appeared to be checking the names I gave them on their own list of names. I got lucky, and I was able to get away from them. When they figure out that the plan information that I gave them is a lie, I am a dead man. Get the hell out of Florida and find a deep hole to hide in. If you can, pass this information along to the rest of our co-workers. Keep your phone on, and when someone calls and identifies themselves as one of us, ask them for the code word. It's the code word we use when spending all that time writing and putting that plan together. You remember it? Of course I do. The word symbiosis came to mind. Good. That word will identify another friendly DIA agent and other government offices, co-workers. Listen to the instructions, but keep the conversation short. They will try to find you through your phone. Do you understand me? And Joel, I'm sorry for the death of your wife. That last comment from Steve brought back horrible memories. Now a bit more shaken, I managed to pull myself back together and I asked, where are you? Can I help you? You need money? You need a gun? How about I come and get you? But before Steve could answer, multiple gunshots rang out. Steve let out a groan and whispered, good luck, my friend. And then there was only silence. I stared at the blank wall in front of me. My thoughts were a blankenship wishing me good luck. I couldn't get the sound of those multiple gunshots out of my mind. Then the sudden silence at the other end of the phone really bothered me. That silence was deafening. And that's the first chapter.
Wow. All right. That's a great preview, and we want to keep people on their toes.
Yeah,
Len,
that book.
go ahead. Mm-hmm.
That book is. I'm 28 chapters into it, and just to let people know what this is about, there's a terrorist group trying to get their hands on the National Nuclear Contingency Plan to neutralize it. Their intent is to attack the United States. That's the short synopsis.
Wow. Okay. All right. So let's go to this whole process. Book one. Let's talk about each one of the books and how they came about, and a little bit of a synopsis. Let's go.
Okay. In 2020, I decided that I would start writing books, and because our enlisted people in throughout the 5 branches of the Navy were beginning to have problems paying their bills and putting food on the family table. So to begin with, 2/3 of all the book royalties that I decided to write go to those people, E1 to E4 in both the Navy and the Coast Guard, of which I was a part of both of those services. The first book I wrote was called Tango Down China Sea. It's a submarine story. It's between China and the United States in the Pacific and along the coast of the China Sea. The reason I wrote the book was the submarine I was on as a quartermaster, that's a navigator, was tasked with collecting a sonar tape on Russia's brand new Kashin-class guided missile frigate. The year was 1970. The Navy's been collecting sonar tapes since 1950. So this being a new ship, we didn't have any sonar tapes, so that was our mission. Get into the Black Sea, which is inside Russian territorial waters, and collect the sonar tape if we could. Well, we went into the Black Sea, and we completed our mission, and on the way out, we got detected, and it took us 3.5 days to get out. So the point is, in the story, that mission plus current events at the time, the Cold War in 1970 was at its height. it gave me the idea to write the book Tango Down, China Sea. The quick synopsis is China breaks into the United States experimental weapons computer system, and gets their hand on an experimental weapon called Eagle's Talons. And they are able to take the information and create that weapon and use it. So that's what that book is about. That's the 1970s mission. In 1990, I got a phone call. I was working as a nuclear chemist at Vermont Yankee Nuclear Power Plant, south of Brattleboro, Vermont. And I was in the reserves, and I got a phone call, and that phone call activated me to active duty. And I reported to the command center, Coast Guard's command center, because I was a Coastie at that time, to be the N3 operations officer for Desert Shield and Storm. I had operations for all Coast Guard forces in theater for Shield and Storm. And because when I was on active duty, I was tasked with writing contingency plans. I got the idea to write a book about our nuclear age and the possibility of a nuclear device being detonated inside the United States. So I talked a little bit about that book already. That book, I have been told from some of the people that have read it that they think that book should become a movie. But there are certain hoops that you have to jump through to do that. And I haven't done that, and I haven't really been proactive going into that arena. I'm not sure I want to. So that's that book. The third book that just came out, which is a bestseller for Kindle and paperback, called Hades' Crypt. Now, when my time was up for active duty, I requested it early out to go back to college because I got pulled out, be on that submarine in the 769s in the late 60s and early 70s. They approved the 90-day early out, and I applied for college. I signed for an apartment close to the beach where the university was, and I was hired by the chemistry department to be the student instructor for organic chemistry at the university, because at that time I was a chemistry major. So I'm in the barracks. I'm packed up. I got my plane ticket. I've been accepted to the university to go back to college. And the master at arms for the barracks came up to me. That's the man who oversees the building and the management of that building. And he said, Squadron wants to talk to you. So I said, okay. I went over to Squadron, and I went and saw an E9 Master Chief. And he said, Petty Officer Sciuto. Well, actually, it was Chief Sciuto at that point. He said, Chief Sciuto, I have some bad news for you. And I thought maybe, oh my God, something's happened to someone in my family. He said, we've rescinded your 90 days early out. You're going to the Bergall 667. And I said, why? And he said, well, she's just been commissioned. She's going out to sea trials. And they needed a backup navigator for the ship's inertial navigation system. And that's called SINS, is the acronym for that. And he said, you're the backup for that computer system as the navigator. I said, but I explained to him, I said, I've already set to go back to school. I spent all this money to get ready, blah, 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 blah. He said, oh, they're all only going to be out for 10 to 12 days. He said, you'll have plenty of time to make it back to college. I said, okay, coach, put me in. I got no helmet. So I reported aboard the Bergall. She went out for sea trials, and in the book, we say sea trials to now, but in the subservice it's called shakedown cruise. So we went out for shakedown, and I missed college because we didn't come back into port for 92 days. And during that time frame, part of that was close to the ice in the Arctic Circle. So anyway, I got the idea to write Haiti's script. That book is between Russia and the United States in and under the Arctic Circle. Now, one of the things when I did the research for that book was last week you and I talked about the natural resources in and under the Arctic Circle in Greenland, and that type of information was passed along and discussed. In 1920, inside the Arctic Circle, there are 8 countries that are inside the border of the circle. 7 of those are NATO countries. 1 is not. That country is Russia. Now, the Arctic Circle is loaded with natural resources. I'm talking about natural gas, talking about crude oil, and I'm talking about precious metals. So I use that as an example, as a reference in the book. In 2020, inside the Arctic Circle, because Russia has most of the territory, their northern territory inside the Arctic Circle, they have 64 sites for oil and natural gas. The United States has 1, and that's out of Alaska, of course. Canada has 4. Of those 60 some odd sites that Russia has, 13 of them are inactive. They don't even have to use them to sell their oil or use it. So the oil, natural gas in that country is paramount for all of these countries that want to be, quote unquote, in control, especially Russia and China. So just give me a second here. I got to blow my nose.
Sure, no problem. Very, very interesting conversation. Go ahead, continue.
The storyline is Russia builds an underwater submarine base inside the Arctic Circle, and during a patrol with the sequel from the navigator from the Tango Down China Sea book, which is this Haiti script is a sequel to that book, is the commanding officer of the submarine. They're on patrol under the Arctic Circle, and they encounter 2 Russian submarines, and there was a confrontation between those, and the second American boat that was with our protagonist comes in a collision with the American boat, and she becomes immobilized. And what happens they're trying to figure out how to help this boat. An earthquake occurs, and the boat becomes entombed inside a massive iceberg. It breaks off the glacier, and then because the submarine is directly under the ice pack and immobile, she becomes entombed into this. The second Russian boat, CEO, calls it Haiti's script. So they come up with a plan, try to get the crew out of the boat as the iceberg is constantly applying increased pressure on the pressure hull of that submarine. And so that's that story. I write stories, Neil, not for fame or fortune. I began writing because of our guys having problems paying bills and putting food on the table, our junior enlisted people. And it's not just the Navy and the Coast Guard, it's across all 5 branches of the military. And so 2/3 of book royalties, that's what I decided on, go to E1 to E4 in the Navy and the Coast Guard through their mutual assistance funds. If anyone listening is a military veteran, regardless of whether you were an enlisted man or an officer, you have to realize that, you do realize, I should say, that we need the lower ranks of the military. Those are the guys that get the job done. And if we didn't have those people, we might be speaking a foreign language. So it's extremely important to try to help those guys to keep them in the service. That's the reason why I write books.
All right.
I consider it to be a gift. I'm fortunate. Most people, it's not advertised on any of the flyers on any of the books. I turned 88 years old in November. My mind is still sharp. My body's okey doke, but I'm an older guy, and my intention is to support and help these people as best I can.
Well, you definitely are. Go to jlenshudo.com to purchase your books. Leave us a message. Make sure you share this with people, and especially share with people in the military. We appreciate it, Len.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation.
The
Go.
other thing to mention is the jlenshudo.com are all lowercase, and you can find it there. I'm also on Facebook as well, and I'm willing to talk to you if you have any questions or comments. I'd appreciate that. And I will say, God bless you all. Neil, thank you for allowing me to be with you this morning, and I hope your listeners enjoyed the conversation. And God bless us all, and God bless the United States of America.
All right. You're listening and watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.